speaker lineup will cover topics from Bigfoot, UFOs, and aliens, so you will not want to miss attending this amazing two-day inaugural event. Again, that's the Crossing Realms Conference, this September 19th and 20th at the Eagleton Civic Center in Richmond, Missouri. Please mark your calendar and get your tickets before they vanish. Space is limited.
Holy Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly hosts, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all the other evil spirits who prowl through the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen and amen.
Hey everybody, welcome to Third Eye Live. Hopefully my microphone is working. We don't know yet. My camera started to fade out, but this is going to be an interesting spiritual journey tonight, and I think everybody needs it. And I have a great guest on this show tonight. And as I was on just checking Facebook, someone you know, Wayne Braden from Michigan UFO sightings and paranormal, I can't remember your name, paranormal portal podcast or something to that effect. Wayne's going to kill me. He's backstage right now. I asked him to come in because he wrote something and I'm going to read it. And it just so happens there are no coincidences. So I'm going to have Wayne come on quickly, and our guests tonight, which is Phyllis and Nick. I'm going to put you guys up there. They're in the right. That wonderful couple. I've known Nick for a bunch of years, and I met Phyllis through Nick. And we're going to get into this, but the discussion we were going to talk about today is exactly what basically, Wayne, you wrote today, and I'm going to read it because it needs to be read. Sure. I was blown away. So I've made it my mission to stay off social media as much as possible, except to answer DMs and doing stuff with the podcast. Since C19, people have just become, let's say, messy and mentally stunned on all sides, or whatever it is we're picking sides about. It's almost like humans have lost any moral compass, as anybody would expect to see in a godless society. Everyone sounds and talks like an over-emotional female. No offense to the females, but you know what I mean. All they do is complain, talk shit, and then play victim when shit comes back on them. This is a very sad state, and everyone is fronting on social media, but doing weed, drugs, porn, whatever, to fight the loneliness they feel. It is hell. Young kids die, and instead of offering help or feeling some kind of empathy for that loss, you have people out there running their mouths off about what color they were, who they were, what religion they were, where is your God now, etc., all from the safety of their keyboards. The people that do this stuff for fun are sad and hurting people, and we need to recognize that. So many have lost their humanity. It's something that is crazy to see right in front of my eyes. And that is basically what we're talking about tonight, folks. The fact that we have moved to, we are Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sure does feel that way.
Right? We're the Tower of Babel. And when I read that today, and I'm like, we've always said this, there are no coincidences. None. And I think this was, and I'm going to go with it, divine intervention. Coming in here. Now, Mark Eddy, who's usually here, you know, he co-hosts with me. Mark's a great guy. About 2.5-3 weeks ago, West Virginia was flooded. The Ohio Valley was flooded. He had a stream in the back of his house, and it went up to almost 10 feet. And wow. I'm going to say it because no one else will. There are individuals in this world that are so evil that they're manipulating weather. They're manipulating the broadcast towers that we use in XRAD, and they're just designating whether to go at a certain spot. Now, we've seen this in Asheville, North Carolina, and Tennessee, because what's underneath there? Trillions of dollars of lithium. Okay? Hundreds, if not thousands of people have been displaced or poisoned or going to die very soon, and it's unfortunate. Now we have floods in Texas. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen some documents today which would really, really get you upset because they do cloud seeding in Texas. But everybody said the same thing. We were not aware of this. There was no warning to this. And there may be something going on with their dam system over in Texas that may have contributed to this. Now, granted, there were kids in a Camp Mystic, and they're still missing. There are adults missing. It's like 130 people so far that are no longer found. Babies, okay? Innocent kids. Just because they were born into something or they have their dad and mom are connected to someone doesn't take away the fact that they're human beings. Okay? And we have New Mexico floods right now. You have floods in Jersey, and I find it very apropos. The other day, I posted something online. I am really pissed off, not only at what was taking place with, Mr. P. Diddy and all that crap, the satanic Hollywood or the pedo wood, but on top of that, is what took place with Epstein. If you think we're believing any of that crap, you've got another thing coming, and it's really upsetting. We're gonna get involved in this stuff, but I want to show you. I said in the post, make sex trafficking great again. That's what you're for, because that's what he's basically doing by allowing this guy to get free, scot free. Although Ghislaine is in the UK because she had a client list, and she said she was a client list, and that was his number one girl. This was tonight, 6:38 p.m. over the White House. God is watching, and we're going to get into that. Okay, I just had to bring it up. So I'm going to unshare that and bring everybody back. Wayne, do you want to introduce yourself so everybody, Phyllis and Nick, know who you are, and then we'll get to you, both of you, Phyllis and Nick, to introduce yourselves as well to everybody on Third Eye Live. So,
sure, just real quick. My name's Wayne Braden. My wife and I, Michelle, we host a show called Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters Podcast. We go. You were close.
I missed the encounters.
Encounters part. But yeah, it's a mouthful. We've been doing that show since 2021. We have all kinds of people on our show. We do a live stream now, last about year and a half. We've been doing a live stream, and then we turn that into an audio podcast. It was reversed before. We would just do an audio podcast. I'd spend hours editing it. Now I just do the live. We bring people on, talk about all kinds of things, especially when it comes to the esoteric, when it comes to UFOs, UAPs, paranormal encounters, and even some religious stuff as well. Well, I want to say spiritual, not so much religious stuff, but so we do that live every Sunday at 8 p.m. unless we are out of town or something seems to happen. But that's the rundown. Yeah. And apparently I wrote a post that Bryan locked in on.
I definitely locked in because I've been, I had a show, and then life throws you lemons and you throw them back at people. And so I was dealing with a lot of stuff, and I wanted to have Phyllis on talking about, because she, like many of us, and just so you know, Wayne's wife, Michelle, very gifted. We have gifts and abilities that were given to us by our Creator. That's it. God made man in his image, and it includes a lot of good stuff that goes along with it. That's just my 2 cents. And I always said that you have a built-in communication to the Lord through your pineal gland. And when you vibrate and it gets, it's not calcified and whatever, when you pray, whether you do it with your hands or bow down or whatever, and you're praying to God, God is hearing you. It doesn't matter where you are on this planet. Even in space, God hears you. So I know that Phyllis has a gift. I know Nick and I, we go back to this like weird meeting. We used to meet in a library, and Nick always had this great, take on stuff. He's like a real deal. And I said, I wanted to have Phyllis on, and Phyllis, you were having a little bit of an issue, but let's if you can give them like a little background on yourself, and then we'll go to Nick, ladies first always, then we'll get into this because I think it's going to be great.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start with how you and Nick started talking about what you guys used to meet over and how I came into the picture. So as you said, like we all have gifts. We all have intuition. We all have different levels of intuition. And back when you first met Nick, I was very, very heavily into sharing my intuition with people. I would do readings every day. In fact, like I didn't even have to work. That was what I was doing for years. And just a couple of years ago, I stopped because I felt something internally was feeling off. While I was doing it, I never felt like it was off. I felt like all the messages I was getting, they were pure, they were of light, and the things I was saying to people were helping them. So I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. So if you just go a little step further and if you're Catholic, especially, or you're reading the Bible, clearly states in the Bible that you should not be doing that. And I was born and raised Catholic, went to Catholic school, but yet I couldn't deny the messages I was getting or the level of intuition that I had, because the things that I knew, for perfect strangers, I shouldn't have known. There's no way I could have known. Mainstream, I'm a nurse, I'm an RN, I'm a director of home care for all of Westchester and Rockland County. And I felt like I always used that intuition nursing. It obviously helps when you were treating people because you can not only be empathetic, but you can kind of sense what people need. Going a step further than that, when I said, one day I literally woke up, Bryan, and said, I'm done. Can't do this anymore. I can't do readings. Now, I never did tarot, but I used angel cards. I never needed the cards. They were for the people I was reading. It was just, something symbolic that they could look at, but I never needed that. But it was all of a sudden, it was this lightning bolt of message that I got internally. It wasn't something like, oh, I heard a voice. It was just, I knew it. I knew it, like time stopped. And people were still reaching out and they still wanted readings. And I said, I just stopped. Couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
So fast forward, here we are now. And, I don't do any of that. And Wayne, Nick and I used to be very heavy into what you share online. Like we used to go to UFO forums. We went to different places in the country, like talking about paranormal. Like I could have run my own paranormal tours.
Yeah, very heavy into it. Yeah.
In fact, we were in St. Augustine, and we went on a tour, and I took over the tour.
Yeah, that was cool.
So it was, yeah.
That's always
it
good.
It was like this, that whatever they were trying to do obviously was for their tourists, but I was the real deal. But now I would never, ever, ever think of doing that because, and everything, the whole purpose of your show was to tell people, Bryan, that this is a godless country now, godless world. And what we're trying to do is show people that you can change and you can turn on your communication with God if it's not already. So that's where we are. That's where I am. And I know that you've seen Nick's post. I don't really post anymore. I'm sure you've seen a decline in that for me too. I'm not a heavy presence on social media anymore. I'm very private about what I do, what I say. And when I teach people, now when I host circles, they're spiritual based. My company, Soul Sense, is about meditation and sound therapy and how to connect with your higher power. So that's what I'm doing now, and just connecting people to the light. And I said this years ago when I was holding sessions in my backyard, and I would have like 25, 30 people there, and I would go around and give people their readings and just share what I was connecting with. You know, I said it then, this is a battle of good and evil, and something very serious is coming.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
It was actually around 5 years before COVID.
Yeah.
It was 5 years before COVID. You said that. She even said something big is coming, something on a global scale.
Yep.
It's really interesting. So when I met Nick, I met him at that UFO meeting, and he was he was one of the normal people, but Nick is very versed, super knowledgeable about a ton of stuff, and I knew you were very spiritual.
This
Um,
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, that Nick, the Nick next to you, the Nick Knack right there. And he's just like always been. You get a vibe or a feeling. I don't know if Wayne has done that with kids as well and adults. You get a feeling from somebody when you meet them, and that's part of a God-given ability. It's your intuition going, okay, this one I got to get away from. And there was something about Nick was just a great guy, and we used to talk, and we used to have these talks after the wacko meeting, and I used to call it the wacko meeting because it literally, like, I got dared to go to that meeting to begin with. And then when I walked in it, I was like, oh my God, this is like a scene in the X-Files. You know, when they're all sitting in the school chairs, Wayne, and like, everybody's telling their story of abduction. And there are certain people there, they believe what they believe, but they're not there. They're more concerned with, there was one woman there, and I'm not trying to be disparaging, but I don't like people taking advantage of people. And it seems like some people were taken advantage of. She brought out this Tibetan singing bowl, and she's an angel healer, and she's psychic, right? And I go, oh, that's a great Tibetan singing bowl. What chakra is it? She goes, it's from Tibet. I said, I understand it's from Tibet, but is it is it the heart? Is it and it's from Tibet. That's all she could say. It's from Tibet. And I walked back to my buddy Al Santarigo, who's in chat right now, and I said to him, if she's an angel healer, I'm a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. Okay. But this is the problem. People, this is a double-edged sword. People are desperate for leadership from people that really do know. And this is how a lot of us world got taken advantage of. And what you were saying, Wayne, like, there are so many people that have been told over and over again, no, you deserve to have an iPhone. You have a right to that. You can do whatever you want. There is no accountability, because what's happened in the last 20, 30 years, they push God out of the equation. And there's no, you may not be accountable to a human being, but to the man upstairs. And I always say this, Phyllis, I think God is a man, because if it was a woman, we'd be dressed better. That's the only reason why. But I don't know, and so Nick and I've had like these really deep conversations, which I crave, because you can't have conversations with people like this.
No.
Wayne has great conversations. Wayne, you bring so much knowledge, and I like the way you go around and you sculpt your questions. Really intelligent human being, and I'm thankful that you and Michelle, both, she's up there too, are in our education system, and at least some kids are getting a real education. But what was, I got to ask you, because I think this is where we're leading to. Why now? Why did you just post that right now? What was it that you said, okay, I'm done? And what was Michelle's reaction? Because
Michelle wasn't around when I posted it. Usually she's my throttle when it comes to cussing people out on social media or whatever. So she was already up taking her nap, because we got some really bad weather up here in Michigan right now as well, like isolated thunderstorms and stuff coming around. And for me, and now Michelle is living in Michigan, pure Michigan. Michigan weather tries to kill you from 1 minute to the next. I mean, I've been on the verge of a migraine today. She was, having issues with her sciatica nerve in her hip and all this stuff. So she went and crashed out. And then when you messaged me, Bryan, I was out. I had to shut all the lights off, close everything off in the house, and I just lay down on the couch. Next thing I knew, it was like 6:30. I'm like, holy crap, what's going on? But no, what brought this about was just I've been probably because I'm home a lot right now because we're on summer break and we just got back from a very interesting trip to Lake Tahoe for my birthday.
Nice.
Sweet.
Where we were waiting to get on. One of the defining moments for me in that whole trip was we're in Lake Tahoe. We're at about a 6,700 foot elevation. And by the way, I'm a science teacher, so I try to approach everything logically and and even the UFO paranormal stuff, I always try to approach it that way. And so I'm used to asking questions and things like that in what they call a formative assessment mode, where I'm trying to pull things out of people that they, I'm trying to get answers for. So anyways, teacher talk stuff. But we get on this. Michelle booked a Lake Tahoe cruise for our lunch, and it's like a 2-3 hour huge ferry boat ride around Lake Tahoe, and we've done it before. It's awesome. But this time when we showed up, a freak storm had dropped on top of the lake. So there's 100 and 200 of us waiting to get on this huge boat, and the storm just drops. The temperature goes to about 45 degrees. We start getting pelted with snow, and there's 8-foot swells.
Wow.
On Lake Tahoe, and people are like freaking out. And the captain, I told Michelle, I said, we are not getting on this boat. I don't care how big it is. I said, it's a giant floating rectangle. Once that thing turns sideways to this wind that's happening, it's going to freaking capsize, and you can't swim. So no, we're not getting on this boat. So she's like, well, we're going to stand here and wait and see what they can. I said, they're going to cancel. Well, they did end up canceling. At the same time, Michelle's phone goes off, and it's one of our friends back here in Michigan. And she says, have you seen this? And it's a happening news article, Lake Tahoe right now. And there was a boat that capsized with like 10 people on it. Not 8 of them they were searching for and ended up dying. And one of them was like a CEO of Uber or Uber Food or something like that. And so it was like, what in the hell? And they did the time lapse thing as well. They got cameras everywhere. You can see the storm coming over the mountains and literally settling on the lake, and the lake just going nuts. Now, that lake is one of the deepest lakes in the world, and they constantly can pull bodies out of the bottom of that lake because it's so cold, and they are well preserved. Sometimes Native American bodies will wash up on the shore. Guys that have been killed because of the corruption in the gambling and stuff that they've thrown overboard in that lake and gotten rid of. Well, they're still down there. And one of the tours guides was telling us that Jacques Cousteau or his son came there to dive on the lake, and they were filming a documentary on it. He goes down on the lake, comes back up, and they asked him, there's always been these rumors of these bodies at the bottom of the lake. They shut down the documentary. He said he would never talk about what he saw down there. They packed up everything and left and never spoke about it again. They just, it just went word of mouth to the different tour guides that would shuttle the documentary crew from the hotels to the lake where they would be launched. So it is, that was like one of those things like, wow, there are people here that have died. And we're sitting there eating dinner because we went back to the hotel, and we're watching the clouds just part and disappear, and it turns into a beautiful night. And at the same time, we're at this restaurant eating. Here comes Martha Stewart through the restaurant to sit and eat with some of her friends or family members or some. I don't know who they were, but it was Martha Stewart. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? And then the waiter's like, you want us to sing happy birthday and stuff? I'm like, no, This has already gotten weird enough as it is. So there's all of that. We get back here to Michigan, and then I'm starting to see all this other stuff that's going on. And then just recently with the flooding that happened, with the Mystic Camp Mystic and the little kids, I've been seeing people on freaking YouTube and stuff. Why do people care about what happened to these kids? They're a bunch of white Christian kids. Da da da.
Wow.
You know. Oh yeah, they're throwing out this
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
stuff.
People are actually saying this.
Yes, yes.
Unfortunately,
and
yes.
that was like, what is going on here? Like,
Demons.
hello?
That's so evil. Who would? That's
it's
disgusting.
yeah, and it's like, by the way, it's not just white kids. There was plenty of Latino and Hispanic children and stuff that were at this camp, but it just fueled the fire of, you know, they were upset because now so many people care about what happened in Texas, you know, and I was just like, you know what? Instead of running your mouth and trying to find something to pick on somebody about, why don't you put your money where your mouth is and go help? Because there are people online, these Twitch streamers. I follow a couple of them,
Yeah.
and they're in this battle about, you know, oh, you're such a good person. Oh yeah, why are you so connected to them? That it's like the dude was out there trying to help. Like for 4 days straight, he's been out there with his own money that he makes from his stream, buying water and energy drinks and trying to help and find people. And the problem is that the people that get all the attention are the negative ones, because they're so negative. You
Yep.
sit there and you go, what would possess somebody other than like self-aggrandizement? Look at me, I'm going to just complain about whatever and disparage you for trying to help out people. And you look at that, and that's what kind of my post was about, was like, well, you know what? We would have a lot of people like this, and they do have a platform now that they can go on and spout their hatred and their negativity. And they're all over the place. But this is exactly what you would expect if you had no moral compass. And then I sit there and I start thinking, well, where does your moral compass come from? What is good, right? Well, good is God, right? Your moral compass comes from a position of what is right and what is wrong. And how do you know what is right or wrong? Well, I think it's been spelled out pretty good when it comes to the Bible, right? With the 10 Commandments and what you should live up to. Now, I'm no Christian by any stretch of the imagination or whatever, but when you start to think about these things logically, in order for you to have a coherent society, you have to have a basis for your laws, how you treat each other, you know, the value of life. And I'm not seeing it. Now, the guys that go out there and help and are volunteer. I mean, I was in the Army. I signed on the dotted line. I was willing to give my life for this country. There are firefighters out there, you know, airborne rescue men, all this stuff that do this, and they do it selflessly, you know, and they will kick down a door and drag your butt out and try to save you and everything else. And they don't care who you are. Those guys, you know, and gals, 120%, man, love you. But then there's the negative ones, and that negativity is just giving more fuel to that negative vibe. Yeah, you're welcome, Tennessee. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of getting like other people involved into the negative aspect of stuff, and we've got to cut the crap.
well, it's like Phyllis was saying. I've felt like for a while that there's something very negative that's been going, you know, in the works, that's brewing, whatever. Certain guests I've had on my show have kind of opened my eyes to certain things in dark practices that are happening within our government, right? And a lot of this stems around children and the energy that children have. And it just seems like it's the media, it's doom porn, what I call doom porn, right? It's like It's like everything is negative. And then you go on social media, everybody's got on their best dress, they're laughing, they're smiling. Hey, I'm out at my summer house. Hi, yeah.
It's all
Right.
fake.
And then you
Fake.
find out about how messed up they are.
Yeah.
Because if you know those people personally
Yeah.
and they're messaging you and talking to you and stuff, like, man, I hate my wife, man. I just wish I could get out of here. Man, I hate my husband. Man, I drink too much. I smoke too much weed. Da, 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 da. Why are you doing that? Because you're empty.
Correct.
You have
Yeah.
nothing internal until you decide to create something
Correct.
within. And
So
so
sorry, Wayne. I
anyways,
was
go
going
ahead.
to say that what's happening right now, and the whole pretense of why Bryan even brought this show together tonight was because this is Satan's playground, and Satan's winning right
I
now.
was thinking that earlier.
Yeah, and
Yep.
it's true. I mean, look. I mean, like you said, Bryan, there's no coincidences. There is no coincidence why all of this evil has come to light. Like everybody is finally seeing that there is a distinct line of good and evil, and it's very easy to see who's good and evil. You take that out of play for a second and you go to social media, it's all about look at me, selfish people who are, I mean, you can literally be a friggin' billionaire by being an influencer.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you influencing exactly?
Right.
Like, what are you in? There are influencers on, all these different platforms for different reasons. Like, can you name any of the spiritual influencers? Like, you take Father Mike from the Hallow app. He's an influencer when you think about it. But what is he pushing? He's pushing God. But not many people would. You probably don't even know who I'm talking about, right? A lot of
No,
people don't.
I've never heard of them. I mean, I know there. I see. I follow a whole breadth of different things. A lot of spiritual people too, and I listen to certain people like Kim Clemente, who was preaching, to a certain degree. I don't like preachers. I don't like people that, because sometimes it gets so big in their head they think that they are actually gods telling you what to do. I like people disseminating information, making you think and feeling information. So
Yeah.
I was telling Nick before, I was born into a religion. I don't follow. I follow a multiple religion. So it's a Judeo-Christian type of belief system. I have no problems with Jesus. And there's there was a story I told where when you go to bed, you get dreams and experiences, and the experiences, God or your guardian angels or whatever they want you tasked to do to correct in this lifetime, they will let you go on certain missions. And people that are light workers like yourself, that are here to do the work of, in many ways, God, what God wants you to do to fight that evil and that darkness, you have an experience and you remember everything about it. And in this experience, long story short, I was in the Middle East. I speared one Roman soldier, the other one ran out, and I saved somebody from being drowned. And when I pulled that person out of the clay pot of water, I was staring right at the face of Jesus. And I said, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. I could describe you to a T what he looked like. Everything. And I said it, and then we had people in the South, and I'm probably going to get people commenting here or banning or whatever, and I don't care because they missed the message. He just looked at me like my child did when they don't feel well, they have these baby puppy eyes. Like, thank you. He said thank you, and I was just screaming, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, and it ended. And what they missed is, with them telling me, well, that's sacrilegious. Jesus doesn't need help. Jesus, like, wrong. If one person stood up and stood next to Christ right in front of him and stood up for him, maybe he wouldn't have died for everybody. There would have been hope. But the man had to die because no one stood up. No one took, like what you're saying, Wayne and Phyllis, no one took the steps you need to take. They're big steps, and it's scary to stop that. This is ridiculous. Everybody, we all bleed the same color. Red. Doesn't matter what your skin color is. Internally, you're red. It's the same blood, same system, same everything.
Yeah.
And because your life, granted, you were born into something and you didn't have the best of the best. Well, you could either be pissed off, or you can change that up and change your life and make your life better. And that was so when I do some of these things and I put prayers up, I start my show now. It's actually after Wayne and Michelle's show when I told them to start it. They had someone on, great guest, Nathaniel, and he was talking about something I don't deal with, is anything demonic. And there were certain things that were happening. It was weird. And I said, if you're going to do a show about this stuff, you better pray beforehand or send that prayer out. So I started with the Holy St. Michael prayer, because I want God's protection and I don't want to play with that stuff. There are people or individuals that are, above my pay grade, right, Wayne, when you're like above my rank, to deal with it. And I want to protect everybody that comes in here and have a great show, but, I've talked to, Nick a couple of times, and I know that you were having a problem with Phyllis with doing what you're doing, but I think you should be doing it, but leading people, not and say, oh, you're passed away mom's here and she's not happy you did X, Y. I think you should be using it like you're doing now to lead people to, and I'm going to say God. I don't want to get so spiritual and whatever, but God is God. That's what we're doing here. We need more God in our life.
Well, I want to tell you, this is what we're doing, which is why you even wanted us on the show.
Right.
We do lead people in our own way, just like you said, like everyday people, talking to people relative to their experiences, linking it to their higher power. For us, it's God. We are
Right.
firm believers, and, Jesus, we live by the word. Now, teaching children, for me, I feel is my gift. I feel like I relate to children, and teaching them about Jesus and teaching them about the Bible has brought more joy to me than any amount of readings I've ever done. And with this world today, obviously the children are our future. So teaching them, and for having their perspective, when I get feedback from the parents, and they write me letters about how their children are home, and they're talking about Jesus at holiday dinner tables, like, okay, mission accomplished. That is what the world needs. We're not trying to make anything difficult. And to go just even one step further, when I share personal experiences of the Holy Spirit, how the Holy Spirit led me and my family to help each other, how the Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit is God, has saved people that I love. Real stories, this is what my book is about, real testimony of how you can't make this up, and how people can share their experiences with each other, linked with the Holy Spirit. And I don't really care, Bryan, whenever people, if people think, oh, now she's a holy roller and now she's talking about, and they say this about him all the time, Bible thumper.
All
And
the time.
listen,
Yeah,
he's had the opportunity to read and study. I don't have that kind of, nor do I kind of have ADHD. I really can't sit there and read the way he does. But I do in my own right, and I do. And I think as long as you have that connection, and as long as, even if you don't know formal prayers, even if you just feel Jesus in your heart when you're in your room and you're in your bed at night, whether you're on your knees or not, and you just say the name Jesus over and over, and you feel that connection as if a light bulb went off, that's how you know you're doing it right. And that's what we
yeah.
share with people today.
Yeah.
So
Not to cut you off, Bryan. I'm sorry, but it's
yeah,
stuck
no,
in
no,
my
no.
head.
Go.
Going back to what you guys said and what we were saying, how this world is dark. This planet is Satan's domain.
Oh yeah.
For example, do we know what, when Satan spoke to Jesus? Do we know Do we remember where he took Jesus for the third time? The third temptation. You guys know the third temptation?
No, I'm unfamiliar with that
Okay.
aspect
Well,
of it.
I'm going to tell you. And this is no coincidence. Satan took him to the highest part of earth, and he said, bow down to me.
And this,
All this kingdom throughout the world, all this splendor, if you bow down to me, this will all be yours. What does that tell you guys? This planet is his. He's running the show here.
Yep.
And Jesus rebuked him. I can't make this up. I didn't write this. It's in the book. Here. It's
Yeah.
right here. This is my book. I wake up every morning at 3 a.m. I try to read for an hour and a half before I go to work, before I train my clients. I come home, I read during the day a little bit, and then before bed I read. I'm almost done with this book. The entire book from Genesis to Revelation. This is going to be my third time I've read it. Any free time I have during the day, whether I'm working on my race cars, whether I'm gardening, whether I'm cleaning the house, I'm listening to the gospel from Genesis to Revelation because I don't want to miss anything because this life is so short. This is our life.
Yeah.
I want to get as much information as possible from the Word, from the Father.
Right. And what's very interesting, and I like the fact that you brought up the audio version of things too, because some people react better to audio. I mean,
That's exactly what I say to everybody. You have to, just like how Jesus preached, he preached openly to groups of people. He spoke.
right.
All right. And a lot of people couldn't read back then. They didn't have access to the books, to the Tanakh, you know? And basically, the so-called servants of God, who were supposed to be the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they failed. They completely failed the sheep. And the people were suffering. That's why Jesus came. Because
Right.
the people were lost.
And something's very interesting. I actually pray every day, morning and night. There are certain times, you just ask for a little help and guidance, during going through things as well. But I would say it in my head and speak it out, out loud. And what I did was to make my life easier because I have to multitask.
Yeah.
I actually recorded myself. And every morning I sit there and I run it on this. And I'm listening, I'm able to do, but I hear everything that's going. I don't disregard it. It's being heard. And it's being taken in. Because you could read and write and do multiple different things, and also retain it. You probably know that a little bit. I don't know if they did that with you, Wayne, in the military, but in the Air Force, what they would do is they put you in a room and they'd have a slide and it'd go tick, 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 and then all of a sudden it's just, and you're getting all this information without even knowing about it. But some people can't connect the visual with the audio. They need both. And I think when you go back and you've read it, let's say you read a chapter 3 times, you reread something and you go, oh, wow, I just got that now.
There's always something more.
Right. But something is very interesting, and you brought it up. And this has to deal with children. And you don't have to discuss it whatsoever, Nick, but I remember you telling the story of you and what happened to you and what your mother did. And if you wouldn't mind discussing it, if you do, we can hold it off till the book comes out. Whatever books. I told Nick the other day, I'm like, you two need to put a book together. You should have your separate books, but put together a book. And I said a TED Talk. It just instantaneously, I saw you both on a stage, and this is what I was saying. TED Talks are huge.
Yeah.
And they don't have enough of them. It's always this BS, like, how to make money or whatever. People walking around and telling you how to advertise or market.
It's empty. It's worldly emptiness, and it's tiring already. I'm so tired of it. It's exhausting.
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't subscribe to the church personally. I've just had so much, oh my God, this is not right. moments with different religious figures. And And I just think it's like, you're missing the point, you know? And I've been turned off by the church because I don't think it's more of a control aspect. The current state. What it was in the past was a community bringing people together so they work together. But it's, again, religion is your step. You can do whatever you want and however you want. You can pray wherever you want. I know many a person that were praying like hugging a toilet seat in college, and they, what is it? What is the term? There's no atheists in foxholes.
Right.
So,
But not to
how did
cut you
it?
off. Not to
Yeah.
cut you off. Jesus,
No. Go.
He came back. He came for the first time to end that man-made religion that they created. That's why he came. It's another reason why he came, because they were falling away from God. See, the Father wants each and every one of us to have a relationship with him on a daily basis. That's what he wanted for the chosen people, the Hebrews. That's all it was. But they kept on rebelling. Now, it's our turn. We've had 2,000 years now since Christ came. There's 2,000 years that we need to get this right on a global, collective, conscious scale.
Right.
There's no excuses.
Look what Jesus said to the disciples, like when he sent them out, the 12, right? What did he say? Speak to the sheep.
Speak to my sheep.
Right.
Take care of my sheep.
Right. He said, because it wasn't, you didn't have to go preach to people who will already be receptive to it.
Correct.
It was people who had no idea, or, people out of the ordinary. And that's what they did. The 12 tribes, they went out.
Yeah. I mean, and the sheep were the average everyday people, not the Pharisees, not the Sadducees, not the scribes. The sheep were the average everyday people who were supposed to be led by the priests, just like how we today have priests in all the churches around the world. But guess what?
But how does it apply today,
Guess
right?
what? It's same thing's happening again as it did back then.
It applies today because, like you said, Ryan, with the church, a lot of people are turned off by church. A lot of people are turned off by religion because of the rules and like people always feel like, oh, the church is always asking for money. You should go to church because you feel a connection to God
Right.
there, period. You should go because it gives you peace. Sometimes I find that, like, when there's days I don't want to go either. There are Sundays that, or Saturday nights where I'm just like, there's other things happening that I'd rather be doing. But I feel like I need that moment of peace and I can find it there. But guess what? If it wasn't there, if it was in my living room where I would find that peace, then that's where I would be. And that's what I always say to people. Even though I teach religion, I believe in it, I am Catholic and I stand by it. And yeah, but there are still things in the church that I also don't agree with. However, I always say to even my students, if you feel peace inside of this building, this church, then keep going. Then go
Yep.
and worship Jesus there. And that's it. I'm all about
Right.
applying it for today.
Yeah. It's just very interesting. Brother Rick said, Kingdom EA is within you. You don't need a church to find it. It is wherever you feel comfortable and drawn to. Okay.
Right.
Some people, it's Wayne's going to probably vibe with this one. There is certain, almost the same type of euphoric feeling when you hear good music and you get in, you connect on a different level. And it's not just connecting to the music as much as there's a feeling about it. And Wayne's a musician, and I used to, before going on stage, little stage fright, I'd finish, when we got there, a fifth of tequila. Yeah, that's the way I would start.
Wow.
Because I was nervous, and
Yeah.
I was, and I was in a couple different bands, and we'd go up there, sing theirs, the band song, and then I was singing my songs. And then there was this one time we were up there, and I'm singing, I must have sang most of the songs that night, but at least 50% of them were mine. And I had everybody in the audience singing back to me. I floated my ass home that night. I didn't need anything thereafter. When people are into you, they're getting that and they're singing it back to you. That's just it's a crazy feeling, but it's almost religious. You get the same thing in upper Michigan. We got Michigan Robin here. We've got Wayne. I mean, I asked about what's pure Michigan. What does it mean? And it's that pristine area. And something that's been coming around. I don't know if you guys looked into it. Nick, Phyllis, as well as Wayne. There's a really good shot. Oh, this is going to blow people's minds. That the Garden of Eden is in the North America. Because if you read the Bible about the four rivers that come together, and there's a specific wood, I think it's like a cedar or something with a C. I forgot the name of the wood. Please forgive me for that. The only place in the world found where you'll find that wood is in the southeastern portion of the United States. And if you map that up to where the description of the Garden Eden, where the four rivers come and connect, that is exactly what's here. If you look at what they found, Kincaid found in the Grand Canyon, the Sphinx and the pyramids, this very well could have been the Garden of Eden. If you go back to the Knights Templars, and I'm a Knights Templar, I'm through an organization, but I don't do what they do. I'm not in allegory or in, dressing up in a chapeau. It is the feeling in my heart that what Jesus was teaching, to do right, make sure right is done, protect the infrail, just be a good soul. And that's how I do it. They came to the U.S. with possibly Jesus's other half and an offspring, because if you go back to the Hebrews, what did God say? Be fruitful and multiply. And I'm proposing that, and I don't mean anything sacrilegious to anybody. And they were on a mission, and they've come, and you can see all the areas where they've come into. I'm trying to get Scott Walters on, who talked about the Kensington Ruin Stone and how the Knights Templars have come here. And how this may be the new Jerusalem, but it really was the Jerusalem. If people don't get it, and they don't start getting, it's not about you anymore. It's not about what you got, what you have. Try to tell that to your kids, right? Wayne, try to tell it to your kids. Try to tell it to your kids. It's my kids expect certain things, and I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Think about, oh, you don't have an iPhone or the new one? Boo-hoo. There's somebody who doesn't have food on their plate.
Yeah, correct.
And this is why from the beginning, my kids have done community service. They've made sandwiches for the homeless. When I used to work for a friend of the family in Marriott, she was with the Christian Brothers over at Manhattan College. I worked there, and we used to have a couple of homeless people that would come by. And we would, give them food. And you knew these, when you get to know people and they get to know you, I'm like, oh yeah, hey Harry, no problem. No tuna, right? Because he's allergic to it. And you're giving them some food. Now, technically I'm stealing, but whatever, go at me. Who cares?
Right.
I mean, I was thinking about the show, and I don't care. Again, I want to say it again. This is about getting yourself right in humanity. Like Wayne was talking about, like we need to, straighten up here. And like, it's not about me. And we need to actually, in many ways, chastise that, the woman that I saw the post of the woman, like, what do we give a damn about these white kids? Blah, 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 white, Christian, white. What does it matter?
Right. Doesn't.
Right now, there's a parent right now whose heart is broken because the child that grew in the mother and was given birth to, and they cared for, and they love with all their heart, is missing. And I know where they are. I think they're, up in heaven. We should be more considerate of that. There was a kid in my neighborhood in Florida, and these kids were just The nasty kids, they would talk back to you. They do wheelies in the street, weren't listening. So I was having a meeting with somebody to try to get them on my show, and my other half went to go get my daughter from the middle school. And the middle school is next to a canal, which is right next to the high school. So we park in the high school, just come over, whatever. Well, one of these two kids went out and they were riding their bikes in the street, not listening. And there was an accident. And the person was going like 20 miles an hour in a flatbed truck that carries a D10, construction vehicle, low to the ground. One kid got his arm broken or leg. The other kid had his head crushed. And when I got this news, my heart sank. My heart sank as a parent. My heart sank for the parents of this kid. It's something I do, Phyllis, is we went over there because my youngest wanted to put something up, a sign. Even though it was cleaned up, I can still see the spot where the blood was. And for about 2 weeks, I kept seeing Logan sitting on the sidewalk, not knowing where he is, because it was an accident. And I kept driving by slow. And like, Logan, go to the light. Logan, go to the light. And now I don't see him anymore. So hopefully he went to, I believe he went to the light. It is a tough thing to have these abilities. You have no idea. I don't know. I was talking with Wayne, and when we first met, I did like a remote viewing demo. And and Michelle, his wife, what I would hold, I had pictures, predetermined 1, 2, and 3, and I'd say, okay, take a piece of paper, concentrate for about a minute. We did it like really quick. Draw out what you see. And Wayne was getting some of the stuff, some shapes here and there, and almost
I
like
was getting more off of you.
Yeah, once someone knows what it is, you'll pull it off of that person. That's why double, triple blinds don't work, because someone knows. It's already out in the ether. But at one point, this was great. I hold up this German castle on the Rhine, and Michelle goes and says something about, I see this, like it looks like a cast, and someone throwing a body over, and the body's falling, and there's water and whatever. That's what she says. So I said, well, that's interesting, and I hold up the castle. The next day, I get a message from Wayne. They found, I think it was a serial killer, right? That was
no, it was a guy. It was a guy. So Michelle opens her Facebook, and in her feed is the picture of that castle from the night before of the live show.
Wow.
And it talks about a Michigan man being put in prison for murdering a young woman with long brown hair, throwing her off of the bridge, and throwing her friend off the bridge who survived. He lives up the road. Now, say what you will, but
it was.
And Michelle has pulled this stuff off a couple other times, but Bryan had that picture. We had no idea what was in
I had
those
no idea.
envelopes. Michelle
Something said to
nailed that
pick
it
it.
was, yeah, something happening with a couple women outside of a castle. She wrote it down and all this stuff. He shows the picture. He's like, well, it is a castle, and it's all there. We got it all on our show. We did it live.
Yeah.
And next morning, there's that same exact castle. And this guy had killed 2 guys. Now, I'm interested, Phyllis and Nick. I want to throw something at you that I've been thinking about, and I'm interested in your take on it, because I am not a biblical scholar. I didn't go to church a couple times in my life and whatever, but I try to look at things kind of, I guess, pragmatically, I guess you could say. And when I was listening to you guys talk, and you were talking about the Father and God being the Father, I've seen it in chat pop up a few times. God is, we refer to God as the Father. And I think about how we're becoming more and more godless. And something just occurred to me. It's like, what is the probably the number one thing that is missing in people's lives, especially a lot of kids and stuff that I work with, especially in inner city Detroit.
Of course. Oh, jeez. Wow.
What's missing? A father. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if, like, from a societal, tribal, human interaction relation of having that father figure being gone, in the same way that we have thrown religion aside and thrown any type of spirituality or connection to a father, that being, brushed aside, men being kind of denigrated. We're always the dumb oofs on TV now, or
Yep.
we're always the bad guy. The dude is always the axe murderer or something like that. But I'm curious if you guys have had any thoughts about, like, we see our birth rate dropping. We see a lot of I don't want to say illegitimate kids, right? But we see a lot of people having babies, but then there's no family structure. And we talk about God as the father. But if we don't even recognize there as a spiritual father, and there's no father in the homes, is there any wonder why we are in these positions of where we're looking for something else, and that void that is created within people spiritually, but also like familially, right? As a family. So I'm curious as to what you guys would think about that, how you would encapsulate that, and what you think from that kind of spiritual, biblical viewpoint.
You go, and then I'll go.
So
Great question.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Great.
And again, no coincidence. I was having a conversation earlier tonight with my son about security in the home. We were talking about parental guidance and security in the home. Going back to what we first started talking about, is that we lost the sanctity of family. We lost the wholesomeness. We lost,
The nuclear family.
well, no, we lost what's sacred about family. Like, how many I don't know what the statistic is, but a lot of families are either, one parent, divorced. And listen, I get it. It's the way of the world. It's very easy to make a sacrament. Like, you can go before God, you can get married on an altar, and then claim you're Catholic, and then get married again. Obviously, you can't do it in church, but you get married again. So, like, there's a lot that's been lost in society. If you go back to the origin, that's it. You get married once. You get married once, whether you like it or not. Okay, so you're not with that person anymore, but you're not making that sacrament again. So all of that is lost. We don't have that anymore. Some people do. I shouldn't say we don't anymore, because I do. We do. We have that dynamic. So that's how we live. That's
Give me your background, babe. Where we are, because I don't think he doesn't know.
So I was married. I was married in a church. We're obviously not together. I've been with Nick for 14 years. We're not going to get married in a church. We're not going to get married probably ever, because I made that sacrament already. So I'm not going to do that again. We could be together forever. We can have like a sort of an updated union ceremony, but we're not going on an altar and saying, sorry, God, made a mistake the first time. So even though I understood the sacrament, but I'm going to do it again. Just like there's one baptism, there's one marriage. That's just how it is, whether we like it or not. And I feel bad, because it would be, for him, his first marriage. And, we have these conversations, full transparency, not that the world needs to know our business, but we have those conversations. You're with somebody for a certain amount of time. I just assume that's the next step, right? But we have that bond already with each other, and we have that bond with God. And we also believe that it was God that drew us together. And what we do now, and whether we do it individually or we do it collaboratively, we're doing it to where we serve God. And what kind of example would I set if I'm teaching my sons, who are all older now, they're not babies, they're adults. If I say, you have to believe in God, let's go to church, let's hear your prayers, and this is how I taught them growing up, but it doesn't pertain to me because I'm going to get married again. Like, it's just, you have to have that security at home. You have to lead by example, and that's just the way it goes. And if you don't have that, if you're not teaching that in your own home, don't rely on somebody else teaching your child that somewhere else. Maybe it'll happen, but yeah, I wouldn't rely on it.
Yeah, yeah. So the my take on this is basically the same thing that she said, but I'm going to go a step further. It's lack of wisdom, and that is not knowing the word, and that is the book, the Bible, from beginning to end. In the Ten Commandments, you got to follow that. And what Jesus said to us, if you love me, you will follow my commands. And his commands pretty much were, and it's going back to the Old Testament, if a woman is married, she cannot marry again because she'll be an adulteress. If I marry a woman who's divorced, I'm an adulterer. I don't want to do that to him. I love him, and I cannot go against him. And this is why we're together, because we both recognize the same thing under Christ, under our Lord. But again, it's just lack of wisdom in the homes.
And people think like the Ten Commandments, oh, you can't follow those anymore. They don't pertain to modern society.
They're eternal.
We've had this conversation too, and I say, I get it. Like, obviously, a lot of them would pertain today. Like, do not kill, and do not lie, and thou shalt not take your neighbor's wife.
Do not covet.
Like, those
just
are.
Do not covet.
But it's so easy. I mean, you can literally. It's so easy to get out of those sacraments. It's so easy to get out
because it's a wide path. It's a wide path, and the path that we have to take is a narrow path. It's a narrow door. And
right.
Christ is that narrow door that we have to squeeze through, which makes it so hard for everybody on this planet to be on the same page. And like I said before, we've had 2,000 years of the word spread throughout the entire planet. There is no excuse anymore that we can't all be on the same page.
And Bryan said it too earlier. Yeah. Bryan, you said it about people don't like to be preached to.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right. So nobody wants to hear you say, "Oh, well, it says you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that." Meanwhile, you're a sinner too. You sin. However, you're going to tell me what's right and what's not right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're all sinners. Yeah. I'm a sinner. I sin every day. I mean,
I do it all the time.
I do it. And we're not perfect, but that's why Christ died for us. He died for us to take away that sin that we do every day because we are human.
Yeah. And it's also misinterpretation because I remember when I was reading, when we get to the Ten Commandments different in the Old versus New Testament, whatever.
It's all the same.
It is the same, but it's I think what God does is, when it gets to God, I don't think it's God, thou shalt not kill. I think it's thou shalt not murder. There's a difference. I think God gives you the ability for self-preservation. When you murder someone, your intent is to do that. It's where the intent is. So you do have a right to defend yourself because there are battles and there's a war that's constantly going on.
And did you? And it's not to cut you off, Bryan, but what my Facebook post was yesterday, if you read it, it's we have the right to bear arms.
Yeah, and legs.
Because when
extra ammo.
when Jesus' apostle cut off the ear of Malchus, he cut off the right ear. Jesus healed his ear, and he goes to his apostle, put your sword away in your sheath. He didn't say get rid of it, throw it away, put it back in your sheath, meaning hold on to it for the future.
Yeah, it's it's really interesting because, again, this is where I had the problem. Jesus comes. He tells you that, the money changers and those are the rabbis and all that stuff. They're really doing the work of Constantine, or of the Roman Caesar, and they're not really in touch with what's going on. It's all about control. Like, oh well, you owe us money and you owe us this. Jesus, like, pardon the expression, Jesus, hell no. The only way through Father is through me, which means listen to me, and you will get to the Father if you practice what you're hearing.
Done. Yes.
Okay. The reason I have a problem with the church is the church was created because Constantine says, okay, the Hebrews are uprising. How am I going to control them? I'm the Pope. I'm the first person. Now, he may have converted a bit to what Jesus was saying, but it's all about them maintaining control over it. And then we get into, and it's not just on the Christian Catholic side, on the Hebrew side or the Jewish side, it's all about this.
Exactly. Right.
We have so many children in the globe that are starving. I remember seeing, before I moved to Florida, about families living on abandoned school buses. And these kids go to school. I always ask my mother, who worked in the worst neighborhoods of the Bronx, because she taught special ed. We would complain, how come the school's not closed? It's snowing, it's like 14 feet. And she explained it to me. She said, some of these kids will not eat tonight unless they go to school. They won't eat all day. The school has become the source of them to get sustenance. And then they bring home extra milks to the house. Right. And some of that stuff is fed to the parents who can't go out and do it, or whatever the reason is. You got to look at the perspective. I used to curse, like really go off on God. Like, why the F you doing this to me? I don't have the money, blah, 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 whatever. And I told this at one point. I was let go from one company because I did the right thing and they didn't, and I was working out of the house. We started screen printing and branding. So all that stuff you wear, whatever. And one of our friends has a child that was born partially, like, deaf in one ear and partial in the other ear. Great kid. And they went to the Clark School in New York City. And they teach babies up to a certain age how to deal with their handicap and be in the society and go back to regular school. So they do a walk at the Bronx Zoo. They did. So they were looking for someone to do the shirts. First gig. So I'm in my, whatever it is, my Honda Pilot. And if you know New York City, Wayne, you don't know New York City, but there's one point along Central Park on the west side of it. You go down and there's a point at 96th Street, which goes down a 45-degree angle almost. I mean, it's really steep. And there happens to be a mosque there, by the way. So we're running over to get to the east side, on the east side, to get over to this school. So I'm going down this hill pretty fast. I make a turn onto Park Avenue, I forgot what it is, Lexington. I'm going down there. We pull up, and normally I would pull into a garage just to make my life easier. But something said, hey, go look for a spot. We pull down this street. We're getting close to the time we're supposed to meet. Find a parking space. I pull forward, back in. Most people don't know how to parallel park, but I do. Welcome to New York City. I go back, go forward, go back, forward, pop. Foot hits the floor of the brake, hits the floor, and I'm like, oh, crap, I just lost my brakes. So I said, I'll deal with this later. And I go out. We go to the school. We meet our friend's son. He's great. And they're like, are you sure he knows you? And he's like, Bryan. Comes over, gives you a hug. And we get the job. And we come back, and now I have to deal with this. And I have to get my wife back uptown into the Bronx to go pick up the kids. And then I also have to get my car from where I am up to my dealership in Mount Kisco because they took care of me. Really did a good job. And I'm cursing it because I don't have the money for it. How can you do this to me? I finally get her in a cab. She gets up there. I said, just, meet me up at the dealership. I call AAA. And I'm screaming, like, I don't have the money for this crap. How can you do this? F you, bah, 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 bah. And then I'm walking back and forth in the street. And then I look and I see the car and it's sitting there right there on the spot. And I stopped and I said, that didn't happen when I was flying down 96th Street. It happened when I was on a level surface
Right. Yeah.
in a spot.
Yeah.
And I stopped and I said, I'm sorry, God, I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was my first religious, like boom. And from that point forward, I stopped the cursing and I looked for the bigger picture there.
And how forgiving was he that he didn't strike you
Oh,
down on that first? God damn
he,
it, right?
Yeah.
I will tell you that, and I'll go into this, the reason why him and I have a great relationship. And I'm sure, his scribe came over and says, my Lord, the Bowden gentleman is cursing you again. And God was like, don't worry, I got him.
Give him a minute.
And I'll
Settle down.
explain. So when I was born into the religion I'm born into, that I don't follow, I'm an ordained minister. I follow a Judeo-Christian thing. So I do a lot of stuff. When you get to a certain age, you have a ceremony. It's like a confirmation, whatever it is, and you become whatever it is. And they go by your name. Like, what's your real name? So they convert your name from English to Hebrew. Whatever it is. I got kicked out of 6 Hebrew schools. I was a bad boy, okay? Really bad. So normally it's, if your name is, we're going to use Wayne, and your dad's name is Tom, it would be whatever the equivalent of what Wayne is in Hebrew. Ben, which means son of, Tom, and whatever his Hebrew name is. Or Wayne Bat, which means female mother, a son of a female. It's always that. So so I'm sitting in this thing. I hate being there. They're looking through it. This guy's looking through what's his name. And he looks perplexed. I remember sitting there. I could see them facing each other. I'm sitting at that angle, like Wayne, you've probably been opposite parents, and the kids at the other end of the table going, I'm screwed when I get home, bouncing back and forth. And I saw he was unnerved. And she goes, well, did you find it? He says, yeah, I found it. It's Eliyahu. And she goes, oh, Eliyahu ben David, or Itzi, whatever is it. That's my dad's thing. And he's like, no, hold on a minute. Guy goes out and gets 3 other rabbis together, and the rabbis come in like they're whatever, and they look, and they have this conversation, perplexing look, like, what the hell's going on here? And one of them stands up and goes, it's just Eliyahu. And he walks out. Eliyahu is messenger of God. And from that day forward, I've lived it.
Yep.
So that's why I think my relationship with him, my 2 cents, my relationship with the big guy upstairs is very different than everybody else's. And I've tried to, I wasn't always a good boy. Who was?
Nobody was.
We've done some things. I mean, come on.
Bryan, have you ever read the book of Job?
A long time ago.
Reread it. I suggest everybody to read the book of Job. You think you're having, basically you have to love God in the worst times of your life, and you have to love God in the best times of your life. That's pretty much it. And he will bless you. You just have to.
I will tell you, I've been through a lot, especially the last 2 years ago. I had a heart attack. I should be dead. 100% blocked, the main widowmaker. I prayed to everybody, and I got to it right off the bat because I knew certain things as a former lifeguard to address. And I thank everybody that day too. And I've had some other issues recently. It's very stressful, but I'm like, I put my faith in your hands, God. And what I was saying I think you wanted me to talk about this at one point. I've been sent back to 0 so many times in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm frustrated, but I get up and I still do the good things for people. I just do what I do. I help people. I support people. I use my ability, and I've known I had something, but I was really confirmed later on. I used to call myself a remote viewer, which I am. Don't get me wrong. But I have other talents that I discover later on in life. But 99% of the time, I'm helping people that somehow come into my world and I'm stopping them from killing themselves. And if that's what my job is on this planet, I'm going to do it every day. It sucks, but I'm going to try and do it every day, because I don't want, someone, even though you're bummed out, you're depressed, life's not great, it's not going your way. There are people that do love you. Don't think you're not loved.
Yeah, that's a very special job to have, and
It's not the greatest job. I mean,
no,
like,
it's not the
rock
greatest
star
job.
would have been great, right, Wayne? Up there, just
So Brian, on that, I'm gonna have to tell you that I have to pop off here in about 5 minutes.
that's no problem.
So going just right from what you said, doing what I do, I have patients who are obviously in hospice. So I have to make sure my nurses they're going to shift in about 5 minutes. So I guess what we're all here to do tonight is to do exactly what God wanted us to do, which was to talk about Him. And that's really, we're following Him, we're following His word, we're spreading His word, we're speaking His name in love, and that's our job, and that's what we're doing, and no one's forcing us to do it, and that's the key. So I just wanted to thank you for having me on and sharing this. I feel like we could talk for hours about,
Oh, we definitely could. I'm sure you're going to get an invite from Wayne at one point.
well, to talk about like experiences. We haven't even we haven't scratched the surface about like real life experiences that would convert the biggest non-believer.
Yeah.
And we
Well,
just do what we're doing.
you're sitting next to someone who is that real life experience. Yeah, especially,
Yeah.
and if you I understand you got to go off, and I don't want to hold you up. I may keep Wayne hostage for a few minutes, and Nick, if you want to come on your phone, just follow the link, come back on, and then maybe we can tell them your story, because they're gonna, when I heard this, I knew right off the bat, before I really got in touch with what I can do, that you're on the right path. So Phyllis, anytime you want to come on,
Thank
seriously,
you.
anything. And for the love of God, I'm going to tell you this right now. Keep doing what you're doing. Put your book out. Nick
Yeah.
needs to write a book, and you both need to do a book together. And then we'll work on getting you on the TED Talks, because I'm telling you, I see you up there already, and I'm pretty good about seeing things.
Thank you. I would love to be there. Thank you again. Nice to meet you, Wayne. Good
Yep.
luck with
Take care.
everything. Take care.
Yep. So we'll get Nick back on in 2 seconds. I really appreciate you coming on, and because I felt exactly what you posted. I've been screaming this for the longest time, and I say it in different ways. They're really watching me when I try to promote this show, and I'm going to bring Nick back right now. Hey, Nick, I'm going to swap you with. He's off and he's gone. New people with Facebook. He'll be back in a second. Their shadow, throttling me, like, when you had Randall on, and I'm like, Randall should bring you like a shitload of views.
Right.
I got you, Nick. And it was very stressful I know how what you felt, because I was getting that too, that type of stuff. And I know, and I'm like, just don't give into it. Just keep doing what you do, and it'll come back. And then eventually you'll just, because you got your audience is growing and growing and growing and growing. They're not going to stop you. I do say stream to Rumble and get people to sign up at Rumble for your product, because I think, in my opinion,
we're on there.
Facebook deleting these videos pretty quick. You're going to see YouTube start doing that, or they're going to charge you a fee, because it's a lot of memory being eaten up, and it's costing them money, and they're not,
Yeah.
even though they're making hundreds of millions of dollars a day on advertising, which is just insane.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's cool to see Nick came back, because there was something I wanted to pose another question to him and Phyllis, but Nick will be fine.
She's just so busy, and
yeah.
I'm so sorry, guys, but she's terribly busy. Like, I thought I was busy, but sorry. Go on.
Yeah, not a problem. I mean, I just found out a few minutes before Bryan started the show he was going to have me come on. So, but so I put these weird things together. I like to solve puzzles, and I put these things together in my head, and I listen to people talk that are much more knowledgeable than I am on certain things, and then I kind of dissect it and then put things back together. And so my understanding is, and I believe you to be correct, that the Earth has been basically handed over to the dark forces. That right, and obviously, um, you can interpret those things in that way, right? And we're being tested, and we're um trying to grow and create that wisdom and things that you were talking about, right? By dealing with this adversarial relationship between us and the planet and the forces that are acting within it.
Yep.
And that's how you gain wisdom, is by overcoming challenges and obstacles and things like that.
Correct.
So when I look at the state of today, and I look at when I was a child growing up in the 70s, and the way that I grew up and what I saw and what came out of the 60s, I look at, and it's funny that we were talking about marriage and sacrament and things. I look at all this stuff, and I can't help but see a underlying, like, evil plot, I guess you could say,
Perfect. Yeah.
to start destroying the family. And
Yeah.
Phyllis had said it, right? She had said that don't expect other people to raise your children, and children being raised in a broken home or with one parent or missing the father, and not looking at another father like God.
Yep.
Right. To instill that wisdom and present them with challenges and things to help that child grow. But when you look at it systematically, it seems like, okay, step one, destroy family.
Yep.
Make it very easy for people to get divorced. Make it very easy for them to get married. Right.
Yep.
Then you have what Phyllis was saying, don't expect other people to raise your kids. So what we do is, and as an educator, my wife as well, we create a school system. And I've seen some people in my chat on my channel talk about this. Now the schools feed the kids. So the schools are educating them. They're feeding them. And people are expecting this to continue, regardless of the cost. No, it's just tax money or whatever. But what are they learning, like, philosophically, and being raised in a family versus being raised in a state system? And then people are upset when the kids don't know what identity they are. They have no identity. And we hear about this constantly. People having identity issues, and, oh, I feel like a girl today. I feel like a boy. You don't know what somebody else feels like. You're not an empath like that. So it just looks like systematically, if you were to put a system together to destroy a society based around a religious figure like God, this is what you would want to do. Destroy the family. Insert a state-run system that totally disallows prayer or teaching of God unless you go to a private school. Make sure that kid is fed and sees the state as the parent, the missing father. And I don't know. I'm probably going to catch a lot of heat for this. Hot take, everybody. Whatever. I don't care.
You're not going to catch it.
I've lived it. I've lived it. I've been a part of the system. I've worked in the system. I've seen it. My wife has seen it. And now we come to this point where we have 24-hour news cycles of nothing but doom and gloom. We have online free porn, kids watching it. In Michelle's classroom, she busted some kids.
Wow.
I've busted kids.
Wow.
They're vape penning at the age of 10, 11, 12 in the bathrooms because can be given these vape pens that are easy to hide, to get high on,
Yep.
to stunt their brain growth, and then not learn anything, at least from a foundational mathematics and science and ELA perspective. It just seems like anything that you wanted to destroy a society
Yeah.
has been put into place by our own people, and then they can then cover it up and go, what, you don't care about the kids needing to have food and eating in school? They're starving. Well, if you wouldn't have made it so easy for the family to be in, or the lack of a family to be in that situation, maybe they wouldn't have to depend on you to feed them. At the school I came from, it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yep.
So that makes you dependent
Correct.
on a state which is secular, which wants nothing to do with God.
It's kind of, not to cut you off, but it's kind of like a hybrid state of communism,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It's exactly what it is. It's
The
all
state
about,
is the God.
yes,
100%.
rely on us because we know what is best for you. That's all it is.
But then when you ask somebody what is a woman in that system, they can't answer you.
You know what it is? Exactly. But you know what it is?
Exactly.
It's all about manipulation. It's all about confusion. And that's what it was since the very beginning. I mean,
Power. It's
but
power.
confusion and everybody wants to be their own little god. I can say what I am. I'm a robot, transgendered rabbit. Oh, okay. That's what it is, and it's all about manipulation and getting up here. I mean, again, I like going back to the whole biblical aspect of it in Genesis, when the serpent deceived Eve. He was like, she says, God told me I can't eat the fruit, and he was like, what are you talking about? You can eat it. She's like, yeah, but he said not to. No, you'll be fine. You'll be like God. You'll see everything. You'll know everything. So that's where it started from, which, by the way, it wasn't an actual fruit.
Right.
The term fruitful, when God said be fruitful, she basically, no, with the serpent, with Satan. I can go deeper into that. We can say that for a later date. But again, it's all about manipulation. It's all about us wanting to be like little gods. That's how everybody has like their own social media page. Follow me or follow him. No, I don't want to follow you. I don't want to follow anybody. I'm going to follow Jesus Christ. He's the only one I'm going to follow.
And you know what's interesting too is, Bryan, you started the show kind of with this, and you said, do what thy will, right? Do it, But when you look at that, do what thy will shall be the whole of the law. That's Aleister Crowley.
Boom. There
Right?
you go.
The not black as in the black, like a black person, but a black magician.
Dark magician, dark magic.
Dark energy, right? You got light workers,
Right.
dark workers, things like that.
And
that guy was working with Jack Parsons.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
yeah.
So this goes everywhere.
And again, going back to the Old Testament, any type of sorcery, any type of like mediumship, God despises it. His exact words, I despise all that. And guess what?
Right.
It's going on around the planet like crazy.
Well, you know what's really interesting is if you go back to the 12 tribes.
Yeah.
Each tribe was responsible for something. There were the soldier tribe, the farmers, but there was also the religious or the sorcering, and it's not sorcery; it's actually the origination of magic, and it
Where
was only to be used in communication in the temple with the Lord. So
well,
they were
you're talking
connecting,
about the Levites. They were the priesthoods.
right? The
That was
priests.
them. Yeah.
But basically, it goes back to it's kind of what they were using. They were tapped into certain things that were not supposed to be forthcoming to anyone but themselves. It was the deepest secret. And then you have people now that you get into the Kabbalah,
Well, do you know?
which
Well, Brian, do you know where they got that from? They didn't get it from themselves. They got
no,
it from
it was
the surrounding regions where God was taking them. When God took them
yep,
out, when Moses took them out of Egypt, basically they picked up most of it in Egypt because they spent 430 years in Egypt. And what was Egypt? Sorcery, magicians.
yep,
So they picked it up from the surrounding nations and the nation that they started in, which was in Egypt, 430 years.
right. And then you get into the kings that were there, specifically the one that built the temple and used a specific ring and was able to have dominion over
That's King
the
Solomon.
evil that prowls, yeah, through the earth. This is why when you say the Holy St. Michael prayer, it's not just about the devil. There were other things here prior to God saying, let there be light, boom, let's create man, boom, let's give him a partner. That didn't work out well. She was not nice, Lilith. So we'll give
Oh,
him Eve, you
but
know?
but let me
Yeah.
also I want to address King Solomon. What you said, it's very important for people to know that him having a ring and summoning demons is not in the Old Testament. It is not in the Tanakh. It is not in the original word.
Right.
That came up. That whole story, that whole thing came up from the Jewish people, from the Talmud, from the Babylonian Talmud. When the Babylons came and they took
Yep.
everybody from Israel and Jerusalem, that whole story transpired from there. But that original story, King Solomon, none of that of him calling upon demons to build his temple is not in the Old Testament. So I want to make that clear.
Right. But, and we get into a little bit of interpretation issue here. Now, something that's very interesting is that people I don't like the fact that people have selected what books are available in the Bible. Because if you go back to what they found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are parts of the ultimate Bible, the Book of Mary should be in there, and it's not because at the time, and it's been like that for a while. It was men go to work, do whatever. Women are, I don't want to say property, but it's they took care of the house, the children, and whatever, and they didn't have the same equilibrium outside of the home. It was a male chauvinistic, whatever society. Don't you find it very interesting? And things were working out pretty well there. Not to say, hey, we get to go out and hang out. No, I'm just talking about there was a balance because there
Yeah,
was always somebody home, someone teaching, watching eyes.
that's right.
And what happened towards the 60s? I am woman, hear me roar, you know, and all these movements and evil. I will state that evil was 100% behind all that because you know what? You fracture the family, then
Yeah,
you really got everybody.
correct.
Like you were saying, Wayne, there are some kids that don't have dads, and depending on what culture you are in, I mean, it becomes a joke. About I saw this AI thing where there was a young black boy in school talking to an Asian girl, and she goes, hey Carolyn, you see my cat? And she goes, I don't know, John. Do you see your father? Get
Yeah,
it?
right, right.
No, but it's it was like a little punchline there, whatever joke wise, but it's not a joke,
No,
and you can't just keep hopping from boom to boom to boom to boom and making babies and not being responsible for it. And
right.
then on the other end of it, sorry, ladies, but you ain't changing any man that you come across. I've seen this before. Oh, I'm going to change him. I've heard it from my friends. They're like, I'm going to
Yeah,
change him.
but
No,
No,
you're
Brian,
not.
what I wanted to throw out there and what I would propose to think about is what you're describing there are symptoms of the failed society.
Yep.
But I like to look for like the root cause. What is really going on there? Why is that even a joke when, families back before the 60s and in the 50s, from the baby boomers after World War II, though they were very, very strong. Now, were they
That was the nuclear family.
right?
Yep.
Right. And
Guys,
so,
Guys, hold on 1 second. I have to put my father to bed. Can you give me like a few minutes? But I'll be
Keep
back.
going. Don't worry about it. We're
Yeah.
going to keep
I'll be
going.
back.
Yeah, we're going.
So, you may think about all the men back then were, World War II vets ruling with a iron fist and treating people like crap and da da da. But now we
It
call
wasn't.
that PTSD, right? But
Right.
but what we got to be careful with is doing something a history professor once told me, which is called presentism. And I see this everywhere, where you
Yeah.
take today's standards and our belief systems and our political and our law systems and stuff, and then you go back 1,000 years and go, oh, men were just horrible. Well, guess who had to protect the home, protect the village, was drafted into the military for Vietnam,
Yep.
drafted into the military for World War I, drafted into the military for World War II. Let's see. We're fighting bandits coming into the village. It was the men, and they were dying.
Yeah.
In huge numbers.
And yeah, no, I'm with you on that, because that's what people do. They put things in what's happening currently now, and they look back. Like, this is what happened with all the statues being ripped down.
Well, sure.
You don't understand. And what people look, it's not a pleasant thing to see a whipping post or a statue of X, Y, and Z or whatever it is. But if you rip it down, then no one sees it and gets uncomfortable. Okay, so what happens is history repeats itself again.
Right.
And that's what's happening right now.
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
let's look at this from like a history teacher's standpoint. If we ignore and we erase, didn't they used to call that whitewashing, like in history, where anything bad that certain groups of people did, they would just remove it. So let's just say we got rid of all the Confederacy stuff and all the nasty stuff that happened that got us to where we are today. Hopefully, well, I would like to argue that it would be a better society. It seems like that it just continues to placate to humans' emotional, negative, materialistic desires versus, something more philosophical in growing your body and your mind and everything else, right? But it just seems so bizarre that it's almost like everybody is so damn sensitive that you can't even look at your own past to see where you screwed shit up and go, I recovered from that. That's changed me as a person. But now you're going to apply that to a country. Oh, right. The Europeans came over and they conquered South America, Central America, North America. Yeah. Well, the Arabs conquered all throughout Africa and into Europe, and the Europeans conquered into Russia. And we could go on and on and on.
There's always, within the Native American indigenous tribes, there's a lot of conquering going on there. And a lot of them sold people as slaves. There's slave trade going on right now. It's in the Middle East. Yeah, you can go out and buy yourself a slave.
Go to the Congo and see who's mining the lithium for your damn phone batteries.
Yep.
Little black kids.
Yep.
Working in these pits.
And if they don't do it, or they try to, let me tell you something, this is also in the diamond and the gem industry. And they don't,
Yep.
it's not a kinder, gentler world over there. If they catch you stealing, they cut your hand off right there with a machete. That's no joke. You know, this is the problem we had with people coming back from Vietnam. Baby killer, baby killer. Well, I knew somebody from my brother's wife was in the Navy, got kicked out, but she was friends with some in the Navy, older woman, black woman, and they came over. This was years ago, New Year's Eve, and her husband was in Vietnam. And I said, you know, I was born in the Tet Offensive, and I thank you very much for your service. And it must have been tough over there. And he says, yeah, it was, you know, sometimes it was, you know, kind of rough. I said, well, how did you handle like some of the children? And what we see, we're so arrogant in the States. There are children right now that are 7, 8, 9 years old that know how to use an AK-47, and that they know it, and they know how to use it. And they're dead on accurate. So he was very like, oh, there was one time we were clearing out a village, and I came into this hooch, and there was a 9-year-old, and he pointed an AK-47 at me, and I got rid of him, and I shot him, and cleared the hooch, and like it was matter of fact. They weren't trying to kill babies; they were protecting themselves and self-preservation. It doesn't matter who's pointing a gun at you or a firearm. The minute they do that, no matter how old they are, unless you can grab it and get out of the way, they're fair game, because your life, it's called the right to self-preservation. But what I don't like is,
They're
and I've
doing
said
that
this
now
before.
in the Middle East, man.
Oh yeah, they're
do
doing
it
this
now in the Middle East. And my dad would tell me stories about stuff that happened in Vietnam. He did like 3 tours in Vietnam because it was better than living with my mom. This is what he told me. So
I can understand that.
he liked war better than my mom. So that tells you about how that household was going on before I was born. But regardless, right? It's like they used to try to get the soldiers to buy bottles of Coke and, you know, like Coca-Cola, and they would put glass in the Coca-Cola. The prostitutes would wear certain things to injure the servicemen that would go and visit the prostitutes and get them sent home. Right. But yeah, there were where they used kids with fire bombs, like kids as IEDs and things like that. Like today, we're all like, oh, we're so shocked about what happened. Listen,
no,
they were doing that long ago. See, we're so stupid sometimes in this country not to realize the lengths that people will go to fight a war. Like you have no idea. None.
Yeah,
They'll
I mean,
sacrifice their own people. Human shields. They don't care. We're so coddled here, man. We are just so, man. It's just amazing.
I'm
and
friendly
we
with
the most.
Exactly. I'm friendly with someone whose nephew is a sniper in the military, and they call him Fingers. So he's telling me all these stories about it. He goes, yeah, every like 3 months, 4 months, he gets called in, and they have to have a talk with him. Because what he does is he shoots the finger off of some of the locals and in country, Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever. And he says it exactly as he says. He goes, sir, my objective and mission and, my orders are to protect the base from, problems. And he described it. He goes, you'll see somebody like a little kid with their arms behind their back and they're waving one hand. And he's there with a rifle, and he's like, show me your hand, show me your hand. He's kind of screaming it out, like trying to mentally connect to this kid. You better show me your hand. And when they don't do it, so he doesn't get the kill shot, what he does is he blows a tip off of a finger, and then they pull the hand out, and then he sees what they have. Usually it's an IED, an improvised explosive device, and he takes care of the problem. So he explained it to him. So these people, the generals, whoever he reports to, they have to go back to the mullahs and whatever and explain it to him. But you are 100% correct. There are a lot of people in the Middle East that are using hospitals as storage facilities and operation units. They're using kids as shields. And it's just, war is not pretty, folks. And in that whole, conflict that took place, I purposely, I will say it, it was reported numerous times beforehand that there was something taking place, and Israel decided not to under their leadership, which I use that word very loosely, leadership. And they purposely allowed it to happen so it give them a Pearl Harbor 9/11 excuse to go in and wipe out and get rid of a problem that they've been dealing with for a while. And they're the only ones that have been dealing with it for a while. And I had a couple people I knew that were Palestinian, very nice people. They got Americanized very quick. They loved being an American, and they didn't want a part of the other stuff. And he says from day one, they're brainwashed, and they're all, it doesn't matter how old they are, they're all deaf to blah, blah, blah. So unless you get them all out, this is going to keep back and forth. And one of the things I liked about the current president that he said, we got two countries been fighting each other for so fucking long, they don't even know what the fuck they're doing. And that's the truth. Pardon the French. And, it's just part of the problem. We have another country that is the reason why you had the training and the munitions, and that's Iran. And they supply the Houthis.
Yeah,
and
who we
Hezbollah.
put into power, by the way, in the 70s.
Oh, we always pick
Right.
It's always like the bad guy. We're picking the bad guy that's eventually going to screw us. Al Qaeda, you name it.
Oh, yeah.
We
supported Al Qaeda when they were going against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan.
right.
So we supplied them with all their training and materials, and then they turned around and used it on us.
Exactly.
Which was always their stated goal, anyways. If
Sure.
you're not of a certain culture or whatever, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I mean, they've been saying this stuff forever, and so
Art of war, right? Art of war.
Well, you will get used if you put yourself out there to be used as a tool. It's you're going to be used as a tool and then thrown away, and
right.
I just people this is why history is important in studying history and not tearing down statues and stuff, even if it is the most heinous crap in the world. You have to learn from those lessons, and we just keep on repeating the same stuff along with everybody else. We got to be involved in everything because, well, it's all about money and it's all about power. And that's really
industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. The MIC, baby. The MIC. We are the most militarized country in the world, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You realize this.
I 100% realize I know who I deal with and I'm friends with and the people, what they do. It's very interesting because I posted something about New York City where they had 9/11. And I'm not going to go into that whole thing because there's a lot of BS around that whole thing too.
There's no need.
No need. But how they can vote for this socialist Muslim guy who's just here like X amount of years. And what they're talking about is taxing people because they're white or taking their property. I mean, we've gone into a communism state. And, so I posted, I'm like, New York is DOA, and, I love infidels, like that. They're going to change their logo. The Statue of Liberty is going to have a burqa over it. So someone gave me crap on there. Like, yeah, I mean, they'll tear everything Americanized down and they'll put up, markets, and it'll just, you don't understand, getting free food leads to now you have to do this. Now we own this. So don't believe the hype.
Do you think you're going to get free food with no service or obligation from your body by these states that do this? You are absolutely the dumbest person on the planet if you think that you're going to get anything for free and not have to pay for it in one way or the other. You're either going to give up yourself, you're going to give up your kids, you're going to give up something. And just like everybody complained about the 9/11 bill, right? What the NDAA or whatever back, when 9/11 happened, right? Oh, people are giving up their freedom for security. People will give up their freedom for security. Well, what are they going to give up when they're going to get free housing? Well, I'll tell you what that house
Exactly.
will be like. I'll tell you what that apartment will be like. I grew up in one. We called it the
Yeah.
projects, where you
Yeah.
had no money. The water didn't work. It looked like garbage. There's garbage everywhere.
Maybe you get heat. Maybe you don't.
Maybe, or maybe you burn the place down because you do have a space heater, or you leave
Yep.
your stove on. Right? I mean, dude, it this is what I mean. And when you don't have a good basis of history and you don't study what these other systems have done to other countries, I mean, come on, dude. It's the writing
You
is
know,
on the wall, but people don't want to see it because they are so idolized. It's just like teachers, for instance, in the Soviet Union, and the students in colleges in China, and things like this that wanted to have a revolution, the communist revolution. They killed 80 million people, 90 million people. And then what happened? Those people that supported this stuff were wiped out or sent to the gulags or put in prisons
Yep.
because that system doesn't use, they use people for their agitation and then they get rid of them.
Right. It's the same thing in Cuba.
Cuba, perfect
So
example.
all these people that supported Castro and what they were preaching, they're like, oh, this great life and whatever. The ones that knew the whole thing that they were preaching, they were the first ones killed.
Mm-hmm.
Because once they deviated to the full control, these people that were like, well, this is not what we agreed upon, and this blah 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 blah, that would have called dissension in there. So they get rid of them, and now no one knows the truth, and they're doing what they're doing. But getting back to the whole Iranian thing, them supporting all these terrorist organizations and with munitions and money, which again came from the United States. When Barry gave a whole boatload of money to them, they shouldn't have. I posted this stuff and I said, this is bad for New York. It's going to kill it, and I'm not opposed to Islam or, whatever, but, some guys like, oh, you're racist and whatever. And I said, not really. I just saw the writing on the wall, just like Jefferson did when he read the Quran. I've read the Quran. It's not a religion of peace. Sorry, folks. It's just not. You can say whatever you want about it, but, and I have a direct correlation to what took place because and Nick's back. So in 2005, my friend that I grew up with, Min Matashita, was on the Underground in London on July 7th, King's Cross, and he was blown up by people who were trained by the PLO. And where do you think they got their training and money from? So I have every right to be pissed off at people just because, but I'm not. I take the time to educate myself, and not everybody in the ultra right side or left side is bad, So like Wayne, you were saying, we've got to learn our history and learn the good, the bad, the ugly, so we know not to continue that. Welcome back, Nick.
Sorry, guys. I apologize. I have to put Dad to sleep, and I can only stay for a few minutes longer because I got to wake up early. I got work early in the morning.
No problem. I'm sure everybody's got a jet.
Guys, what did I miss?
Oh, we were just talking basically about, just being informed, and don't deny history. You have to learn your history in order not to repeat the history.
Well, yeah.
And people are disregarding the history. They're pulling down statues, because it offends them, and these people are so offended. But between that and also the fact that during certain movements, the feminist movement, no disregard to women out there, you guys are a lot stronger than we are because we're not pushing anything out 10 centimeters.
Exactly. Women are stronger. Women are stronger.
Yeah. But that push for women to be equal, that just means there's another tax base coming out and they're dividing the family, and now they can go to their kids and brainwash them completely.
Yeah.
You know, not to
Yeah.
say that you're doing it, Wayne, at school, but they're like in New York, they had the Common Core crap, and it's every year since my oldest daughter went to school, they changed the math program. How could you keep up with that at that point? You know,
No.
but I don't
Yeah,
want to. I
again,
don't want
I
to
think
kill
if you
everybody
look
with
at,
this stuff.
well,
No,
if it's just back to my normal argument, and Nick, you can end on this if you want, but again, it's people looking for something to fill that void, that emptiness and stuff. And when you look at it, it seems like if the father isn't there, human wise or spiritually, however you want to look at this stuff. I mean, the Bible should be kind of like a psychological manual, the psychological manual number one of trying to be a good person and learning from your mistakes and having a good family and respecting your wife and respecting your husband and following if you follow these rules, you should have a pretty decent life. And they've thrown that out, but
Yeah.
yet want the kids to be dependent on teachers and school systems to be raised properly. When I have 130 students who I care about all of them greatly, but there's only so much you can do. And all that instills is that the schools will have answers to everything and to those kids.
Yeah.
And the kids know it. Kids are rebellious. That's what they do. So they rebel against that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And consequences and everything else. So I don't know. To me, that is like the base of the main problems that we have in our lovely Western society today is that we miss the philosophy, we miss the family structure, we miss the wisdom, we miss having mentors that part on that wisdom, that will impart that on the kids. And they're inundated with everything from around the world that whatever tickles their little pleasure principles in their brain is the right thing to do. If it feels good, it's right.
Yeah.
And we know that's not true. So
Correct.
I don't know. And Nick, you got to go. So what do you want to end with?
Well, basically, I look at the Bible, and I tell this to everybody. I look at the Bible as you know how a car comes with a manual.
Yep.
We come with a manual. It's the Bible. That's our manual.
Yep.
It's
Read it.
It's so simple. I mean, it's the most perfect manual that you can have. Love thy neighbor. Is that really so bad? Really?
Wait a minute. It depends on who you vote for, whether I'm going to love you or not.
Right.
I'm with you on that.
But I mean, obey your parents, love your parents, love the Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Is that so bad?
No.
These are principles. These are principles where we're lacking, but we're not lacking because, and I've said this before, and I hate repeating myself, but we've had it. The Bible's it has been. It's flourished throughout the entire planet. Every island, every nation, everyone has a Bible. There shouldn't be an excuse to just like to open it up. You have nothing to lose. Okay, you're Muslim. You're a Buddhist. That's cool. I'll read about it. I'll learn about it. I've been learning about, I've been reading the Quran. But has anyone died for our sins? Has anyone loved us so much that they actually died for our sins? Is there a shroud of Turin for Buddha? Is there a shroud? Is there an imprint of a man's image? Do we have that? Is there anything out there, guys? No.
Nope.
No. There's nothing out there. I mean, have you guys looked into the shroud of Turin at all? Bryan, I know you have.
Yep.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's really something else.
They can't. Do you guys understand? They're willing to pay anyone on the planet what is it, $1 million or a few $1 million if they can copy it and remake it. That this has been out since the 80s. Like this whole, like, you know, we'll pay somebody to recreate it. Nobody can do it.
Yep.
There's scientists that can't explain it. But Christ is bad. Remember, we're not allowed to talk about Christ. It's bad. Of course it's bad, because we're in a planet of the fallen.
Yep.
1/3 of the angels, they fell to this planet with their leader. Again, that's a topic we can get deeper with in the future.
Yeah, we could definitely do that, because that's going to get crazy. But
deep
yeah, that would be a tough topic. But we can get into that. I said this often. I said it to someone today. He's the guy that actually wrote the opening song for my show. It's his song, and I said, you need to use it for yours. And he's like, you could use it. So YouTube, start fucking off, because I already got his license and permission. Copyright strict all the time. So I just put in like 20 of them last night. But I said I'd like to do one of those AI videos, and you see the Mount of Olives, and then you see these sandals and the dust kicking up, purposely hitting the ground, and you see the gate opening up.
That's cool.
And there you see Jesus, and he goes, I came here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I all ran out of bubble gum. Because when he does come back,
yeah,
he's not coming back as the lamb, he's coming back as a lion. And all of you people out there that have forsaken him, especially, you know, like when they get up there to receive their satanic award for music, I want to thank Jesus. And God, they have nothing to do with your music.
No.
You are just, you know, get over yourselves. But
correct. Brian, not to cut you off, brother, but it's so funny that you said when he comes back, it's not if, it's going to be definitely when, but when he comes back, when he steps on the Mountain of Olives, and not many people know this because I've done the research on this. In the Mount of Olives, when he comes back, the valley is going to split. There's going to be an earthquake, and there's going to be a giant valley, and it's going to separate when he comes back.
Yep.
I want you guys to go Google. Is there basically a seismic like rift in the valley? Google that.
Like a fault line?
Yes, I'm sorry. I want you guys to Google, is there a fault line in the Mount of Olives? And you're going to see it's the nuttiest thing.
Well, we're very close to the 10 nations coming in through the north, but we'll leave that at that. Nick, please thank Phyllis for coming on.
I will.
Love you, brother. You can come back, both of you guys, anytime. Wayne, sorry to pull you out of vacation mode for a little bit.
No,
but
that's all right, man.
Wayne, it was awesome meeting you, dude. Awesome meeting you.
Yeah, nice meeting you, Nick.
Totally, man.
And check out his show, because I'm going to be killed for butchering the whole show name.
You're not.
Wayne. Michigan UFO Sightings and Encounter Podcast.
Yeah, Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters Podcast. And by the way, Brian,
yes,
Yummy said she's listening. Dun, dun,
I know
dun.
she's listening. You know what? I just re-listened to my predictions. Go re-listen to them, because it's a lot of stuff's taking place.
Yes, sir.
I thank you guys all, and I'm going to leave you with the song I wrote, which I always do, and if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. Tell Yummy, enjoy your vacation, pina coladas or rum or whatever it is. Nick, God bless.
You too,
and
guys.
Everybody, have a great week, and practice random acts of compliments. Try that. It's easy.
Peace.
Be more
Peace
human.
out. Yep.
You, it's always been you. God showed me you. I have been searching decades for you. I found you, I lost you. My heart is broken without you. My soul aches for you. I need you, I want you. My days are filled with you. I've seen the future with you. My home is with you. I have felt the the future with you. My nights are filled with you. Love is you. True love is you. My happiness is you. Every past life is with you. My dreams are filled with you. Life is meaningless without you. My future is with you. I will fight for you. I will defend you. I will give up my life for you. Whatever it takes for you. Nothing else matters but you. I love you. I love you. I love you. God showed me you. I have been searching decades for you. I found you. I lost you. My heart is broken without you. My soul aches for you. I need you. I want you. My days are filled with you. I have seen the future with you. My home is with you. I have felt the future with you. My nights are filled with you. Love is you, true love is you. Love is you, true love is you. My happiness is you. Every past life is with you. My dreams are filled with you. Life is meaningless without you. My future is with you. I will fight for you. I will defend you. I will give up my life for you. Whatever it takes for you. Nothing else matters but you. I love you. I love you. Life is meaningless without you. My future is with you.